Good evening. The question I have for you is, are you excited or are you worried about artificial intelligence in education? So that is the topic we're going to go tonight. And the reason for that is that in the last week or so, I've been working with different AI, for example, ChatGPT, which I had played before. I've played with Claude AI, as well as Gemini from Google, trying to figure out what are the great things I can do with them. And some of you will say, well, as a teacher, why would I want to explore what AI is all about? Because as a teacher, I want to know what the students can do and not what an AI can do. And we'll talk about that because these are excellent questions you may have for yourself. We're going to do a quick checkup to make sure that we have sound. We have sound, so that is excellent. So tonight's topic about AI is from the fact that in the last week I've been playing with AI, and I decided to bring that topic to you. If you're new to this channel, my name is Alain Faber, and I've been teaching science, languages, and all kind of topics from grade 7 to 12. And I'm here to share some ideas I have, things I learn. And this podcast is always divided in three parts because I always focus on the learner's perspective as the first segment, the teacher's perspective as a second segment, and the leader's perspective as a third element. So this is the main topic we're going to have tonight. So I don't know if you had a chance to play with artificial intelligence. If you have a chance, you can put in the comments below the AI that you like the most. I know that I've been doing some great, so I've used Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini because these are the ones that I was the most interested about, but I know there's 4 or 5 extra ones. And I know that the next thing I need to play with is how can I use pictures and how can I use AI to modify pictures or create videos. We'll see. We'll see what the next coming weeks will be bringing me. Good. So let's see what we have here for today. So if you think of AI, first of all, you have to keep in mind that it's a new technology that for the last couple of years, but a lot of students nowadays are using AI to either help with their schoolwork, help with, instead of using a tutor, they go online to get answers. Some people are even using AI to create work that they say it's theirs. And that's when teachers get worried about. Because if you're in a language course, but you are asking students to write something, but then they're using AI to do it, the only thing the students have created are basically the prompt for which they got their essay. If you are asking AI to create a presentation, to do the research for you and put together the script of a presentation, then it's not part of what the students has created, but what AI has created. So what I've noticed with respect to AI, so often if something comes from artificial intelligence, it's a good 75, 80, 85%. It is a good mark. And some students will say, well, guess what? I don't have to do much. I can get the machine to do it for me. However, I was having discussions with my business communication class, and I was telling them that in the real world, in the workplace, either if you're in a company, you are a worker or an employee in a company, or you have your own company, we don't want to deal with the machine to get results. We want to have a human, and we want the uniqueness of that human. And that's what we want to focus at school. We want to know what students can do, the type of reflection, the type of thinking, the type of collaboration they can do, because these are skills that are necessary. Because I tell them, if you are relying on AI, it is a choice. And you know what? If you get caught, it's not very good. The idea here is that you are giving the control to a machine to do the work. So that means that you are helping artificial intelligence and the models to get better. And therefore, what will happen is that people will say, why don't I use a model instead of hiring people? And that's something that the students, teachers, and leaders have to be mindful when we're thinking about artificial intelligence. Now, keep in mind, these are my own thought, my own perspective on that. And If you agree with me, please put it in the comment below. If you don't like what I'm saying, please do it as well. I'm always here to share what I know, but I'm always willing to learn. Now, when you think of, I'm going to show you something that is interesting. So let's see if I can show this thing right here. Nope. There you go. We're going to use this one. So if you are looking at the video, so here I'm going to be showing two calculators. So in the 80s, when I was in high school, we were able to get calculators in our math class. They were brand new because a couple of years prior, I know that students were still using tables for sine, cosine, and tangents when they were doing math and science. So here I have an example of a Casio programmable scientific calculators, FX3800P. Now, I remember having one that was very similar to this one. And here, this is on eBay, and they say it's a vintage calculator. Imagine that. The other one that I remember having was a Texas Instrument TI-35, and they were calling them handheld electronic calculators. And I remember how we used to keep them in our pocket here, and it was exciting because we were doing math classes, we were doing science classes, and the first thing we did was take some notes and get in calculators to get the answers quickly. Now, things have changed because most of us have cell phones right now, but there's nothing better, even for myself right now, to have a good calculator to share what is interesting with respect to science when you do calculations. Because a student that uses a calculator, students is using their own mind power to come up with the answer and do all the work, instead of using a phone where we're using the internet from the outside to find the answer. So that's something that I will share with you quite often tonight. Very good. So the first segment for this podcast will be about the learner's perspective, the student's perspective. And the idea here for students is that they need to navigate all the online information available, but they're using digital tools all the time. If we ask them to do research, they will go on the internet. If we ask them to find a picture, they will go on the internet and find one. And the whole idea, and I've noticed that more and more with students, is that they are experiencing pressure from academic performance. And the idea here is that their future is uncertain. So they feel that they can use AI, they have control on it, and therefore they feel they have more control on the output than what they can put together. And I think this is due to probably this idea of building the certainty that they can do that, building the self-esteem to know that they can find the answer. Now, if you look at my class, I do a lot of work in my class, and I tell my students, I'm expecting no use of phone or computer in what we do in class. And you're going to say, how is that possible? Well, there's always taking notes. There's always collaboration, debate. You can have handouts. You can have documents on the walls. You can have scavenger hunts. You can have hands-on activities, chemistry labs. You can have circuits. There's so much you can do with your hands that you don't necessarily need the computer to do that. And I notice that because often when I start this semester in science and I tell them, nope, there's no cell phone or computers in what we're going to do our things, they always stress out a little bit. So what I do is I give them a 5-minute break right in the middle of class so that they can do what they're doing with us as a class, but then take 5 minutes to get to their phone to feel better. It's part of reality. We cannot deny that it's not there, so may as well use it. So we have here a little for money. Hopefully you're doing well. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'm doing great. Hopefully your summer is going well as well. Good. Now, what you have to keep in mind if people are using artificial intelligence is that sometimes they don't know how to get the information, or they don't know how to actually learn what they have to learn. And for that, often, the best way is to get away from tech and to be able to focus on what's in the present moment. I remember when I was at McGill in physics, I remember a cartoon, and I think it was in a Mad magazine. And what it was two pictures. The first picture was someone sitting on a chair with a computer, and they were talking about tech. And then you had on the side, you had Einstein with a pen writing on a piece of paper on the seat of the chair, not paying attention to the computer. And they were saying this is science. So for me, there's a big difference between science and technology. So there you go. So if you think of me in the last week or so, I've been playing with AI. So I have been learning quite a bit, and it is exciting. It is exciting because you are giving a prompt to an AI, and they're coming up with answers, coming up with ideas that you may not have considered before. So I do believe that there's a room for AI in the classroom. So let's see what we can say that. So for example, if you have an essay to do, I don't see any problem with a student deciding to look at organizing or making a plan or doing organizing ideas on AI. So for example, the person would have read the book, they would have done the research on the topic, and then outline what the key ideas they have and ask AI to organize it. And then the students will use the organization, the mind map. There you go, the mind map to organize the ideas, and then they can write their report, their essay. But you have to be careful, because some people will just use AI to write whole essays and sometimes don't even read books or deal with what they have to do. And usually we can pick up on that pretty quickly. When I was teaching French, for example, people were using Google Translate to write their text. But then you have to keep in mind that if a student put all of their text in Google Translate, and then they even put their first and last name, and then Google Translate try to translate their names, you know what? It's pretty obvious that it was not done by them. So we do a lot of pen and paper in class, and the reason for that is I want to know what my students can do. And I think the more students do, the more they can build evidence that they're learning, the more they feel certain about what they're doing, and the better they get. So have you ever used AI to help you teach? So here I haven't used AI to learn for teaching for a few reasons. When I first played with OpenAI about a year ago, I did some work, and then, excuse me, and then the virus came into my computer. I had to fix it. So I was turned off by AI quite a bit. And the other one is that all the computers, all the tech used at my school board, all AI platforms were not allowed on the resources. So since they were not allowed in the resources of the work, I decided not to use them so that I could show the students that I could do the work without using AI. However, with all the work I'm doing this summer, I'm going to be using AI to organize a few of my classes. You're going to say, how is that possible? Well, I've been teaching. So this year, I'm going to be teaching grade 9 science classes. I've been teaching that grade 9 level for the last 20 years. So I know all the topics inside out. But what I'm looking for from AI is to come up with new ideas, or to go on the internet to look at new hands-on activities, and new fun stuff we can do in class that doesn't require the computer. So often people say simulations are great. I understand. However, we can use the computer to have a list of things to do in class. So my plan is to use AI to add to what I can do in my science class. So that's what I did actually yesterday, and I need to look at those in the coming days. I asked, it was ChatGPT and Claude AI to come up with hands-on activities for each of the specific expectations for the curriculum. So I know it's there. There are some great ideas. The question is, I need to pick and choose what I'd like to do, because I would like to do hands-on activities every day, if not every second day. And I think AI can do that for me. And to be honest with you, the other thing I played with the Claude AI Gemini and ChatGPT is I've been putting together a list of topics for this podcast. So the whole idea here is I outline 52 topics for the next 52 weeks. So one thing I wanted to do this summer was to plan ahead a little bit. So I organized the topics for the months to come in for the podcast. So I think this is exciting. The podcast will not be done by AI. However, I can do brainstorming on ideas, and then I'm going to fill out the outlines from there, like a students would do, I think, for an essay in a classroom. Something that I know the AI is getting much better is that AI can create pamphlets. I know that Canva has some amazing things with ChatGPT, and can also create even slides for some AI on PowerPoint or Google presentation. So the whole idea here is you have to be mindful that if you're asking AI to create a document for you, to do the research for you and put all the work there, the issue is that the machine organized the idea. The machine doesn't care about the topic because that's what it does, but the students doesn't know about the topic. So what I do is I ask questions. So when I have projects with for my students, they either have to present and then they cannot read, because if a student can read, it could be a text from AI. So usually I get them to, if they read, I ask them questions on the topic they've done. Because if they can answer my questions from what they presented, that means they did the research. If they can't answer the questions, that means that they have not done the research, and it is a red flag right there. So the idea here, I think, is that for learners and students, it's the idea that not to prohibit the use of AI or say, no, it's illegal, you can't use that. Because guess what? It is a good skill to have to get to know AI. So if in the summer someone doesn't know what to do, learning about AI, how to better write prompts, how to make it easier to get answers, that's something someone can do as well. I was looking at someone was saying that there are some jobs that are called prompt engineering. So that means it's people putting together prompts so they can get answers. But this is something that is working on. So this is basically the first topic here about students. I'm not saying that AI cannot be used. It can, but we still want to know what the students know when they can share. Because for me, I want to know what students can tell me about what they've learned and not what a machine can do. That's a big difference right here. And that brings us to the second segment for this podcast, which is about the teacher's perspective. So the teacher's perspective, the subtitle I have here is incorporating digital resources into teaching and staying current as teachers. Now you have to keep in mind that teachers, I know that some colleagues, either at my school or in other schools, that teachers I talk to, are worried about AI because they feel it's not the students' work. And then an AI does excellent output, 75 to 80%, it's possible. But the idea here is we don't want to give credits to machines or an AI. We want to give credits to students that have demonstrated that they can think and put ideas together. Because the whole idea of school, writing an essay, doing a presentation, is to organize your ideas so you can communicate them. That's the best skill you can have for now and for your future job. If you work in a company, or if a CEO and you have your own company, then being able to communicate is very important. So often teachers need to understand the use of AI, but sometimes they feel powerless, and especially about plagiarism. So that's why this summer I'm spending some time to play with the AI, to know that it is a tool. And as I've mentioned before, when I started high school, so that was so we did some trigonometry in grade 10. So that was secondaire 4. So that was probably in 1984 or 1985. And they were just starting to put pocket calculators in classes. Keep in mind that pocket calculators could not be used before. Then they said that they could be used because they thought that calculators could not help students understand what was happening. So what happened is that calculators now are part of the school. The same way AI may at some point be more important in our school, but we need to know how to use it. And that's why this idea of digital literacy is important. The question here is, do you think AI could ever replace human in certain jobs? So that's a good question. I know that it has. So I have a few interesting examples here. They have, let's see. If you look at the social media, there's a few things called AI agents, and I've heard the rumor of AI employee. And this is just a theory right now. And it's the idea here that if you have people that are gathering information to summarize information and give some options for decisions, then some AI will be able to do that at some point. If you give them the data, they'll be able to extract the information, organize the information, and give it. So this idea of AI employee is just trying to see the demo and see if it's possible. Could it happen? That's a good question. I know that I also was listening to someone that was part of a board on a company, and some companies are using AI to see how AI relates to decisions by board from different companies. So if, let's say, you have 10 board members, and 10 board members together, they make discussions and they make decisions, they have an AI that they are fed the minutes, and then they are asking AI to come up with possible solution to their problems. And he was saying that the correlation between board decisions and suggestions by an AI was very close to 80 to 85%. So it's quite high. Will it replace people? No. Can it be used to help to make better decisions? I'm sure eventually it will happen. And then would it replace certain jobs? It's possible. The whole idea here is, okay, I'll give you an example. If you think the post office have used the AI for a long time. And what they've done, so if you think of your address, you have your name, street numbers, your town, and you have a zip code here in Canada. And in the past, there were humans, they were looking at zip codes on each of the letters to know which province they were in. Then the letters will go to the province. People will be looking at the zip codes to know which areas to deliver the mail. But so what they have in the post office is that you have an AI, and the AI is learning and has learned how to decode those zip code so they can send the letter much more quickly. And they're going so much faster than an employee will be able to go. So that's an example that dates back 10, 15 years. If you think of right now, the whole idea here, certain jobs, I have no doubt. But there's some jobs that you need people to actually be there. And the cooking, for example, to run errands, even though if you think of people for grocery, you have apps right now, you can order your grocery and have it sent to your home. So we don't know exactly how it's going to be, because interestingly enough, I was listening to an engineer a couple of days ago, and he was saying that AI, we talk about AI quite a bit. We can show what it can do. However, there's not really any substance from AI. We don't have large-scale production of something that AI can do. So that's something that he's saying that in the next 2 to 5 years, that's something that will increase quite a bit. What can humans do with AI to produce something to have a much better society? And that's something that we need the startups, we need companies to do this, because AI per se deals with information, but is not creating anything in a large scale. And that's something that at this point it cannot do. We'll see what happens. These are great questions. So there you go. So if we continue with respect to teachers, now I know that, so I'm using this summer AI to give me more ideas on how I can add hands-on to my lesson plans. So in some ways, because it's just information coming from the internet or a curriculum, AI can put it together. But you still need a teacher to give the information at this time. So that's something that teachers can do. But I don't want teachers to use AI to do all of their work. because at the end, teachers need to have a good understanding of the content, because content is not the main thing that teachers need to do. The main thing is to have a deeper understanding of what students are and what they need with the content. So if you're worried about what you can do with your students, and then you worry about knowing the content for your course, it's too much to think at the same time. So it is very important for teachers to know their content so that they can have a deeper understanding of their students, the people they spend most time with. And you know what? An AI cannot take care of that, because it's interesting. Yesterday I was on Claude.ai, and I finished the session. I said, "Oh, I finished my session. Thank you." And the response from Claude was, "Oh, I don't have any feeling about ending this session. Thank you for telling me." And we just ended up there. So keeping in mind that AI is just information in words and not necessarily able to be interacting with people the way they need. And that's where teachers are very important. I have, so let's see. This idea of this quote here that teachers need to have a deeper understanding of students compared to having a deeper understanding of content. It is from a TEDx talk that I watched, and the name of the person was Azul Terrones. And I'm going to put the link in the description after the podcast. And the name of the TEDx was What Makes a Good Teacher Great. And it's the whole idea of the human relationship between the person and the people involved in the classroom. So thank you very much, Mov Scientific. Always interesting to see you coming in. And let's see. I have here for teachers another comment. I have teachers need to deal with work-related stress and students' performance concern. Okay, let's see. What would I want to say that? Okay. Good. Now, keeping in mind, I mentioned earlier that students, they are worried about their performance. They are worried about the future. They're not sure about how the marks they will get. And often they think that the machine or an AI will help them better. However, teachers need to be there for students to know that AI is a tool. So if you think of me when we go back in September to see my classes, we're going to be doing all kind of activities in my science classes. However, I don't really care about what an AI could tell my students about a topic or a presentation they do for them. What I want to know is I want to know what the students can tell me about what they've learned. So in chemistry, if we learn about an element, for example, calcium, I want to know what the students has learned from their research. I don't want to know what an AI can do. The reason for that is that what the students can tell me, what we can communicate scientifically in class, what we can do as a collaboration, these are skills that can go further. It's the same thing as if you are watching TikTok, it's one snippet at a time. Often you don't remember all the snippets because it's just you're not involved with the videos. However, in a classroom, if you're involved, therefore the learning is more involving, and I think it's better for everybody. But that's my perspective. Very nice. The third segment for this podcast is about the leader's perspective. Now, when I think about leaders, it could be leaders in the school, like principals and so on. It could also be leaders in your community. Either you are tutoring people, you are part of a religious organization. You can also be a parent. A parent is a leader in their environment. So that's all something to consider. So the whole idea here for leaders is to understand technological trends and the impact on their organization. So as leaders, for example, as principals, we want to make sure that teachers and students are aware of the expectations. Because if the expectations are outlined, then it's so much easier for everybody to say, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is what is not supported. But for that, we need to make sure that the whole environment is a supportive environment so that people are willing to make mistakes and learn from their mistakes. Often people use AI because they say, well, AI will do the work for me. There's less chance I'm going to fail. But the whole idea of learning is to be able to learn from your failures. But to be able to feel that you can do that, you need to feel safe, feel comfortable with that. So that's something to keep in mind. And I think same thing with parents with the children that are learning in school. It's important for parents to support their children, to not use AI to plagiarize or to do the work for them, but to use AI as help. I think it's important. If you are a team leader or a CEO for the same thing, you want to make sure that your team members are aware of what needs to be done, the vision of the group, but also what are the expectations. Because if, let's say, you are a team leader and you have 6 people and 2 are using AI all the time, well, what happens is that it will be cheaper to have 4 people, and then because you can use AI yourself as a team leader, and therefore, why would you have 2 employees that would just be the same, that would just be using AI? Now, there's room for companies to have these dedicated people to work with AI to supplement what a team can do. And that is something to keep in mind. So there's always 2 sides to the story. And that's my perspective on this one. So and for leaders, I think it's important to see how it is possible to bring more digital literacy in the organization. So how to use technologies, the web, and artificial intelligence. This applies for parents. This applies for students. That applies for teachers. This applies for CEO as well. Because I was listening to a video on bloggers, and some people, what they're doing right now is that they are asking AI to write blogs for them, and then they cut and paste blogs and they try to make money that way. And the whole thing is that more and more AI is getting to recognize AI produce work, and that's important. Because keep in mind that if AI is going on the internet to get information, to have an output, you have to be careful. Because if you go back to maybe a year and a half, so when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, it was almost the beginning of the generation. ChatGPT was just starting, and ChatGPT was using what was on the internet to create some content. So some people were using ChatGPT generated content to put content on the web. However, if you think of now we have GPT 4.0, what's happening here is that you have this AI that are using the information from the web, information created by humans, but also using information generated by AI in the last year and a half. So what happens here is that you have compounded errors that can come through. And that is something to keep in mind. So that's something that is part of being mindful of digital literacy and verifying your source. The next thing too is that every time you're using a model, an AI, to create an output, you are participating in improving that model. So you have to be very careful to not put personal information in the AI. Because if you put personal information, for example, names and personal information, addresses, and so on, money, a bank account, and so on, to ask the model to create something, the model keeps this information for maybe other use because it is building the information. And that is something to be careful. We are using a learning management system at school. And I know that people are just using it and putting a lot of their work on it. However, I tell them that when we signed up at first, this learning management system, if you were to read all the documentation, they were saying that every information, every document produced and put on the platform could use it as part of their company. And the reason for that is that they could use that to be able to create a better AI to help the learners. What's the company? Adobe. Adobe got into hot water. I think it's about 4 or 5 months ago when they came up with a new terms of usage, and they wanted to say that every creation on Adobe could be used by the AI. And people got so upset because it was Adobe saying we are owning everything that is on our platform, which is it's not that it's unacceptable, but it is something to be mindful of. They changed their decision a month after because some people were just leaving Adobe. But still, every time you put something on the web that you put on an AI, what happens is that it is giving, you are participating in making the model better, and you have to be careful. So what did I do for planning for my science class for September? I took the curriculum documents from the government and I uploaded it in ChatGPT. Was it ChatGPT? No, it was Claude, because I wanted Claude to go into the document and read all the information to be included in the course. And then I asked my question: what are I would like to have? I mentioned 80 lessons. And for 80 of the lessons, I would like to have a few hands-on activities. So it created a whole bunch of activities that I think I would enjoy as well. So the more I use it, the better I can get. And you know what? Possibly many of you are using AI and are probably better than I do. However, if you don't try it, if you don't play with it, if you don't learn from it, you will not get better. And so here's the main points I wanted to share with you. Is not to be scared of AI, but I don't want you to become a person. I don't want you to become dependent on AI. I want you to use AI so that you can be better at what you do, either in the planning, but ultimately, teachers, shareholders, your friends, other employees, they want to know what you can do and not what an AI can do. So you can use it, but it can be the basis of who you are, what you're producing in the school or in the workplace. That's my perspective on this. Hopefully that was interesting for you. Let's see if there's any last questions before we end this podcast tonight. So no more questions. So if you have any questions, because you are watching the replay, don't hesitate to put them in the comments below. I always always read your comments and answer them. And if you have any specific topics you'd like me to include in the next podcast, please make some suggestions, because we're here to share ideas about learners, about learning, about teachers and teaching, and about leaders and leaderships. That's all part of great skills for now and the future. On this, have a great evening, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 7:30. Bye-bye.